we teased it before the break. John Heyman, or is it Hyman? Do we know?
John Hyman.
John Hyman.
It's Hyman.
Okay, I like that better. He's a baseball columnist for the New York Post, does a lot of work for MLB Network as well. And yesterday on the MLB Network, he was talking about the Astros and who they plan to target at the upcoming trade deadline. Take a listen.
Well, they want rotation help. Certainly Garcia, Urquidy, and McCullers all out with injuries. So they're looking at the rotation very seriously. They would love to get Dylan Cease from the White Sox. Now, a lot of teams would love to get Dylan Cease. He's one of the 4 guys they've really made, I wouldn't say untouchable, but close to untouchable. So they'd have to pay a big price to add Dylan Cease. I do think Stroman is a possibility for the Astros. They're definitely looking at him. Also, the other names that we hear all the time, Montgomery, Giolito, Eduardo Rodriguez, of interest too. But Cease is their dream acquisition if they can do it.
How about that? Dylan Cease, the Astros' dream acquisition. He finished second in the American League Cy Young voting a season ago. Not having a great year this year, but still a guy.
How's he doing this year, BK?
Yeah, 4.18 ERA, his worst season since his rookie year in 2019. Nothing has gone right for the White Sox this year. They've been one of the more disappointing teams.
I mean, to be
baseball.
fair, Jerry Reinsdorf basically treats that franchise like a kid in a toy box that doesn't want to play with the stuff anymore and just walks away and makes his parents pick it up.
It's a very good metaphor. So Dylan Cease not having a great year, but I still think he's a very, very good pitcher under club control for another year, so he wouldn't be a rental. What say you? Do you think the Astros should be willing to maybe pay a hefty price like Heyman was talking about to go get the White Sox pitcher?
Who's the players that you're giving up is the first question that I have. Who's the untouchable that you're going to keep in your farm system for your future? Because that's the main thing for me. Because the other thing that I want to look at is Dylan Cease looking at signing a long-term extension with you afterwards. Because he's 27 years old, still going to have his best years ahead of him. Still, when he's on his peak, can be an ace for a lineup. And you already have, I think, your ace in Framber Valdez. But maybe you want to upgrade. Maybe you want to move a guy like Christian Javier to the number 3 role. Maybe you want to move a guy like Hunter Brown to the number 5 in the rotation. So if you add in a guy like Dylan Cease, you have a 1-2 combination that when they're at their peak, they are going to be wheeling and dealing nonstop. But it's going to cost you a pretty penny. I'm not letting Drew Gilbert out of my farm system. He's immediately off the table. Now, I'm going to offer a guy like Colin Barber. I'm going to offer a Corey Lee. I'm going to offer maybe even a Pedro Leon just because of his versatility. And this is an organization that has been such a downtrodden disaster on the South Side for years. They need to hit the reset button. They need to go ahead and get as many up-and-coming prospects as possible. But I'm not touching several of the guys. I'm not giving up a guy like Yainer Diaz to be their future backstop when Yasmani Grandal continues to swing and miss. I'm not giving up Drew Gilbert, who has impeccable power, great defense, and I'm not also going to give up a guy like Chas McCormick, who could be an everyday starting center fielder, or at worst, an outfield left fielder for them. So it's the asking price for me. And also, I want to guarantee that he's at least interested in signing long-term. And I may have to be willing to pay that price if I'm Dana Brown, but I'm also not going to just relegate myself to say, hey, I need to go ahead and spend money for a guy that has 2 years of roster control when maybe I can get a guy for a fraction of the price, for a fraction of what the salary cap is going to be. I mean, what the fraction of the salary is going to be next year. Not worry about arbitration as well, and still have an opportunity to go ahead and win a championship this year.
There is no argument against Dylan Cease, the player.
No.
Right? Even though he's having a little bit of a down year compared to what he did a season ago, he would still instantly come here and be a top 3 arm in this starting rotation, which you think about a playoff series. Okay, you want to have 4, but you really, really want to feel great about 3 guys, and Dylan Cease would allow you that luxury. And there's no baggage with him, right? Like you talk about Cody Bellinger and you worry about the locker room stuff. Marcus Stroman, who's another name that Heyman mentioned there, he's openly talked bad about the Astros over the last couple of years since the cheating scandal came out. Like you don't have to worry about any sort of locker room issue with a guy like Dylan Cease. He's an incredible talent and he'd help this team tremendously. But yeah, he's going to cost you a lot. And you're talking about like maybe either or. Like, I'd be okay giving up Corey Lee or Pedro Leon. Like it would take a few of those guys, I would think.
And probably at least one proven player.
Yeah, exactly.
So someone on the lineup right now is going to be headed to the South Side.
Exactly.
If you want Dylan Cease.
And I think Chas McCormick has played his way into the untouchable conversation. I really do.
I would say right now, of any single player that they have, I would not want to get rid of Mauricio Dubon, and I would not want to get rid of Chas McCormick. They're just too versatile to their roles for the offense. And you can put them at any part of the lineup, and I think that they provide value in some sense. And defensively, they're great.
Yeah.
I mean, defensively, you can go ahead and play Jake Myers and allow Chas McCormick to play in left field, and you don't have any qualms about that because you have 2 great defensive players, but you need to get a bat. in place of Jake Myers.
The Astros are in a tough spot right now because they've got one of the worst farm systems in all of baseball. That's well documented at this point. And when you're a team that's trying to win this year, like the Astros are, you're not going to feel super comfortable giving up players who can help your team. Like, I saw a trade proposal that included Jose Urquidy going back to the White Sox, and okay, I would see why the White Sox would want Urquidy.
Well, yeah, because they need to get a guy that can at least be a number 2 in their rotation.
But why would the Astros get rid of Urquidy? Because he's going to be a part of things this year. Like, he would be a part of the 6-man rotation in the regular season, and he could be a part of their playoff rotation. Same thing with the guy like Chas McCormick. Same thing with the guy like maybe even Jake Myers or Mauricio Dubon, like you talked about. You got to be weary of trading players who are already up on the big league level because you don't have the depth that you had last year.
No, not
like
at
last
all.
year you could get rid of a Jose Siri, and it's like, okay, well, he might be good for the Rays, and he's turned out to be pretty good for them. But it's like, oh, we've kind of got this logjam of people already at center field, so it's no big deal. You just don't have, forget just the major league level, Cole. You don't have that organizational depth that you had a season ago, and that's going to make things a lot tougher to get in on, and you're going to have to give up a lot to go get a guy like Dylan Cease.
Well, what do you want if you're a guy like Dana Brown? Do you want to go ahead and bet your farm system and just go all in for the next 2 years and then be willing to go ahead and suck when every other team starts to get better? Or do you want to be a guy that can actually go ahead and keep at least a core part of your farm system together? That way you stay relevant for years to come. Yeah. That's why Drew Gilbert's not on the table for me. That's why a guy like I would say Chas McCormick's on the table for me. Yainer Diaz is not going anywhere right now because if I need these guys to not only come up and produce, but I need these guys to be able to help sell the franchise still going in a positive direction moving forward. And when you have pitchers, a guy that is not getting enough attention today is Kyle Hendricks of the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah.
If you can go ahead and get him for, say, your 8th best prospect or your 9th best prospect, and maybe a guy, let's just say like a Corey Julks for that matter, or something along those lines. You want to get rid of those guys to go bring in a player who not only has postseason experience, but can be a veteran in the locker room. As far as I'm concerned, has not said anything negative about the Astros since 2017.
Does that guy talk?
Yeah, no, he's as silent as a bat. Like he's silent as all hell. So
Yeah.
it's like, add him, veteranship, continuity, and you get a good player that's going to be a part of your system for this year. And if he walks in free agency, well, he's also in his 30s. No one's really going to care that much.
And you didn't give up a whole hell of a lot to go get him. Yeah, like honestly, I get a name like Kyle Hendricks is not going to be as popular to this fan base as a guy like Dylan Cease or a guy like Marcus Stroman, who are kind of the top guys who might be available at this deadline. But I feel like the Rockets. I feel like the Astros are going to be sort of shopping towards the middle. Like, I just don't think, number one, they have the horses in the barn to go get those dudes. And number two, I don't think they're going to be as desperate as some of the other teams who, haven't won 2 World Series in the last 6 years to be willing to sort of mortgage their future more than the Astros. Because Dana Brown, he's talked about it. He's not going to give up his top guys for just rentals. And he's in year 1 of a 5-year deal. Like, I don't think he's going to view this year as I have to win right now. I think he views this thing, and rightfully so, as a window that's going to be open for a few years beyond 2023.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Just do me a favor. Do you think right now that the Astros need to spend big? Like a team like Texas, like a team like Baltimore, like a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks who don't have a quality number 2 pitcher on their rotation? Because I don't think right now what you need is you just need to find role players that can come in and add a little bit of veteranship, a little bit of versatility, and kind of stabilize either your rotation or your bullpen. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for these frontline players that are going to come, be rentals, make you cost an arm and a leg, and then watch them have to go get paid $25 million of annual salary next year, and all you have left to do is just hold your hands and go, well, we got a championship. How'd that work out for the Los Angeles Rams? Oh, yeah, F them picks, but also F our status for the 2023 season.
Yeah, I think the Astros could be looking for more quantity than quality this year. I mean, obviously, you want both. You want to get a number of different impact players who can help, but I'd rather have Cole, like a starter, a reliever, and a bat versus just Dylan Cease. Like, if that was the options that were given to me, I'd rather upgrade a little bit at a few different spots versus major upgrade at one spot and give up a whole hell of a lot to do it.
That's what I would do.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But according to John Hyman, depending on who you listen to, the Astros are targeting Dylan Cease. He is their dream player at this trade deadline, which, of course, is coming up on August 1st.